Hello out there in Cyberland. This is Carla from Rayhan's World of Connections, and I am here today to talk to the amazing Casey Fenton from San Francisco, who is learning how to hack his identity. And I need to hack mine, so I'm excited about this. And we are going to be talking, doing a typical interview. The show, like always, is promoted to create peace, one conversation at a time with people throughout the world. And today it's San Francisco, California. And Casey, can you please introduce yourself?
Happy to. Thank you, Carla, for bringing me on your show. I couldn't resist a giggle fest, and I couldn't resist anything to do with peace. So happy to be here. A little bit about me. I'm a longtime entrepreneur. I'm 41 years old now, and I've spent half of my life here in the Silicon Valley in California and traveling a bit. A lot of people know me as one of the founders of Couchsurfing.com. 20 million members around the world. Everyone's staying on each other's couches, having adventures together, kind of like a backstage pass to the world. And so I worked on Couchsurfing for like 10 years, and we built it up, and we got a bunch of investors involved, and now we have people taking care of it, which is great. Now I'm working on other projects, and one of those projects I'm working on is called Upstock. It's equity as a service, worker equity as a service. If anybody has, you need to offer stock to workers. We'll try to make that really easy. Like, it's just super simple and anybody can do it. So it's just kind of something that's not really offered these days, and something I'm super passionate about. It's something that it's just been so challenging. It's even in Silicon Valley to do this. So, and the thing that we're here to talk, I think, mostly about today is ego hacking. It's something that I've been working on for the last 20 years, but really solidly in the last 5, and in the last couple of years, been working on a book. We're finding a publisher right now, and I could go on and on about ego hacking, but it's basically, the idea is we don't know, as humans, we just don't know how our egos work or our identity works. You walk down the street and you ask 100 people, you might get 100 different answers, yet it's something that affects every day of our life, every decision we make, every direction we take, all the big decisions, the small decisions, yet why don't we know how to work with it? Most people consider ego as just something to be avoided. Maybe it's just, people say, don't be an egotistical person, but hey, this is something that has been, built in, it's built into our DNA, and it's helped us get to where we are today. Like, modern society would not exist if it wasn't for human ego, human identity. So really passionate about bringing this information to the world about how does it work, but not just that, also how do you work with it? How do you hack it? How can you not only hack it on your own, but how can you hack it with your friends? And then how do you get hacked every day by the media and the people around you without even knowing it? So I think the world would be a better place if people understood how their identities worked, and they could use and hack egos for good, where they could bring about a better world. And boy, these days, when you have so much, so many conflicts at a national and international level, really at all levels, right? And a lot of that has to do with people's identities and what they've attached themselves to, and what they're, that they become adversarial with other people because they have, attached themselves in such a way that they actually feel pain if other people say, what you've attached yourself to isn't good or isn't right. So people want to dig in their heels, and it's even deeper. So there's a lot of different directions we could go here. Carla, what do you think would interest your listeners the most?
Ego is something everyone is concerned about. And there are all kinds of definitions of ego by different spiritual leaders, different people. So I want to start with asking you, how do you define ego?
Right. Okay. So depends on where you go. I mean, you could ask people on the street, but you could also go and ask academic people, people that do research, people that are psychiatrists, psychologists, people, therapists, people that work in that kind of field, and you might start to get answers around that. It's the part of us at a low level that drives us to get our basic needs met. Now that could be the basic needs of air. I've got a low level part of my brain, maybe in the amygdala, that gives me that I feel pain if I'm not getting my basic needs met. So maybe it makes me feel that pain and then go out and do something about it to solve the pain, to remove that pain. I think even Matthew Lieberman at UCLA says that you can use ibuprofen to lower the effects of this ego pain. Now, ego for some people it encompasses all basic needs, all things that you might feel anxious if you didn't get it met. Now, that is, you could go right up Maslow's hierarchy. You could say, food, air. Then you could say shelter, safety, and then you could say, human connection, and then you might go up to identity, needs of feeling connected and belonging and social, but then also like needs of feeling that you're okay, that people like you, or that the things that you're attached to that you've identified with are okay. So for the purposes of this book and the purposes of where I think most people are interested in understanding ego, it's really that higher level piece of the pyramid, maybe not last because there's self-actualization above that, which isn't really a basic need necessarily. In that identity and needing to have an identity or an association that feels good, that's what this book is really about. It's about how we build our identities from early on, and how that affects us ongoing in our life, and how to change our identities, how to figure out what identities we'd like to have, and how to get our friends to help us. So this whole book is premised on this idea that we have to become what other people tell us that we are, or who we think they're telling us we are, for social cohesion. And if you think of a long time ago, billions of years ago, even single-celled organisms, they're all they're getting together, they're starting to cooperate, they're starting to learn how to cooperate a little bit, and the ones that over time cooperated better and better together, well, they would outcompete the others for resources. Even in the last billion years, we start to see multicellular organisms, and even in the last 500 million years, we really start to see like multicellular organisms with a lot of shape, even coming up on land, coming out of the ocean. And the ones that could cooperate better, they could outsurvive or outcompete the other ones. And this has just been something that's been, as old as time, old as time here on Earth. It's just a phenomenon. And so think about millions of years ago. There are two, within millions of years ago, maybe even hundreds of thousands of years ago, there are a couple major, let's say, mutations or pieces of evolution, I believe, that happened to humans, were our ancestors. And that was, first, we really started to care about what other people think. And that's a good thing, because the more you care about what other people think and keep track of what other people are thinking about you, you can have a better chance of staying with the group. If you know what they think, you know what they want, and you know who they want you to be, how to fit in, then they won't push you out into the desert and say, get out of our group, do it on your own. And usually having to leave the group meant kind of a death sentence. It's, people cooperated together and take care of themselves, take care of each other, you have a greater chance of survival. So yeah, millions of years ago, you could go back a long time, and it's those that could better predict what other people are thinking and wanting them to be, well, they would stay in the group. And that's just, it's a great survival instinct and feature. But then a little bit more recently, I guess, hundreds of thousands of years ago, maybe tens of thousands of years ago, it's probably not clear, we started to do something called external identification. I call it that. What is that? Imagine a long time ago, an ancestor, tens, 20,000, 100,000 years ago, if you had maybe you had a feather in your hand back then, and someone said, some feather you realize looks beautiful, like nice feather, or maybe a tool you've worked on last day to make that tool, maybe like a hammer or something. And somebody said that feather is stupid. I don't like it. It's a horrible feather. Or somebody said I don't like that tool. It's a horrible tool. If you go back far enough, humans or our ancestors wouldn't have really felt anything about that. Somebody says I don't like something that you kind of own or have built or attached, kind of connected yourself to. They wouldn't care. People didn't externally identify. But then something weird happened at some point. Well, maybe like neurons got crossed, some mutation, and this is the thing that made modern society possible, I believe. And what is that? That is that humans now externally identify with anything, any object or idea. So if somebody says that after this change, if somebody says, I don't like your feather, it's almost like they said they don't like you. Or I don't like that tool you built. It's almost like they said they don't like you. You feel it almost the same way. Now, before that, people could understand, I don't like you, or maybe even I don't like your group, possibly. But I don't think they were really saying, if I don't like something that you're attaching yourself to, you wouldn't really feel anything. You wouldn't feel like that really mattered. So once this happened, once this change happened, that meant that people would do things for much more random, weird reasons. Like they wouldn't just do things to go get food somewhere. They wouldn't just go do things for some shelter, for safety, not the basic needs anymore. They would do things for a new basic need, which was kind of like, making sure that I would call it an ego ledger or identity ledger, or let's say all the things that they're attached to are feeling good or looking good. Because why? Well, if you are attached to these things externally, and that includes yourself, then and those things start to have a look bad in other people's eyes socially, maybe you will be expelled from the group. Now that's not good. So you want to have more power, more access, all the things that make you survive easier. And now suddenly you don't just worry about yourself or maybe your family, you're worrying about anything you've attached yourself to, or anything someone else has told you you've attached yourself to. And that causes people to do some really random things. Like if somebody says, I don't like your house, I don't like houses that are painted green or colored green with those kinds of leaves over there, maybe you'd feel offended. Maybe people would start, going to battle over things. Maybe people would start to go to war over things that don't even have anything to do with with objects in this world, purely ideas. And that's what you see, as time goes on. You see a lot of that. And so that was a really interesting mutation, and it caused, I think, modern society, people would do things for all these random reasons, infinite number of reasons, because we could attach ourselves to almost anything infinitely. And now we have all of these, more diversity, as a lot of us know, means more strategies for survival. So it's a long answer, but basically saying that we need to do what other people want us to do. We're built into our DNA. And if we don't feel those feelings, like we want to kind of conform and work ourselves into the group and be kind of cohesive, if we don't feel those things, we're often seen as a sociopath, somebody who either doesn't feel empathy, compassion, or doesn't feel remorse. Kind of interesting. So it's a good thing that 92% of people out there are born caring about what other people think and externally identifying, because what does that yield? It yields society that works. Imagine this day and age, everyone is born and they don't care about what other people think, and they have to spend a lifetime trying to learn that. That's impossible. So modern society would not exist that way. So this mutation was a really important one, along with the externally identifying, connecting your identity and self-worth to things outside of yourself.
No,
That's all. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Please do. If you have a question, I don't want to talk too long.
I want to go back to a definition of ego so people understand what it is. I understand it's a mutation and everything you've said, but can you simply give a definition of ego, which you are working on hacking? And
Sure.
changing?
Yeah, so I would say the simplest definition is what we're hacking is your identity, or my identity, our identity, any collection of concepts, ideas, traits about a person or people that guide us to do the things we do. And so the idea is we are going through life basically having other people have a lot more influence over us than we have over ourselves by in many ways. Maybe so you've heard the statement, a lot of people have heard this, that you become the 5 people you spend time with. It's pretty well
Right.
known concept. Well, it's almost like you become what you think the 5 people you spend time with want you to be. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
we always want to be cohesive. So we're becoming who other people are or who they want us to be. And if that's true, we don't really have as much control over our lives as we thought. Well, so what is this, and how do we fix it? What are we trying to hack? Well, we're trying to hack what other people are telling us we are and how we see ourselves. That's what the ego or the identity that we're trying to hack is. So if it's true that you become what other people tell you you are, what do you do with that information? Well, try to get other people to tell you that you are who you want to be. Figure out who you want to be, and this book will have a this has our book has a way to help you figure that out. Um,
Do
and
you
then try to get.
do
Go
you
ahead.
have a tip on helping people figure out who they are? Because I
Yeah.
agree, in my life, my parents wanted me to be something that
Hmm.
wasn't me. They wanted
Hmm.
me to be my sister, or I thought that they did. And I
Hmm.
think that's happens in many families, oh, this child will be the doctor of the family. And
Hmm.
the doctor of the family really wants to be an artist or a musician.
Sure. Hmm.
How do and because he or she hears so often you're going to
Hmm.
be a doctor, she goes into that field and is very
Sure.
unhappy.
Hmm.
So how can we help people from not getting trapped in a field that
Mm.
they become trapped in?
Sure. So I mean, there's a whole process you could go through to try to figure out who you want to be, and there's many books out there on that. And I think it's a question that if you ask yourself over the course of a year and talk to your friends and people you trust about it, you'll start to get a sense of who you'd like to be at least soon, and then that will of course keep getting
But
updated and modifying. But I guess what I would say is, so how do you do that? Well, if you're in that situation, and many of us are, where either society, our friends, our family, at work, telling you or inferring, or you feel your body physically feels, or you're hearing from them that you should be a certain thing, but you want to be something else. Well, their feeling and that input from all of those other people is more powerful then you can't even be yourself in many respects. It's hard. It's going to be like swimming upstream if you are like, I want to be this other thing, but everybody's telling you, yeah, you should be a doctor. Well, good luck. It's not going to be very easy to go against what everybody wants because it's built into our DNA that we become what other people want us to be. And I can go into details of why and all that. But that's kind of how it is. And I think a lot of people agree with that. And a lot of science and
right.
research shows that. Yeah. So you gotta surround yourself with people that see you as the person you want to be. If you want to be an artist, well, surround yourself with more people that see you as an artist. Or go to those people that your friends, your family, whoever, or you're spending time with, and tell them, say, hey, can you start to just tell me or see whenever you see me doing something in the art direction, the artist direction, reaffirm that. Just tell me that I'm doing a good job, that you can see me in that direction, whatever is real, whatever is authentic, that
So
builds so that I can see that other people see me that way.
so how do we help people learn to do that? Because many people are unhappy. I mean, the world is full of stress right now and
Mm.
full of strain. And
Mhm.
it's because, oh,
Mhm.
our country needs to be better than this country, or my religion is
Mhm.
better than that religion. I'm going to go out and get rid of that whole other
Mhm.
religion. They're
Yeah.
missing that understanding of who they really are, which is beyond the body and beyond the mind.
Mhm.
How do we help
Mhm.
people connect to who they really are?
Sure. Well, I think first you really need to understand who they want to be or help them figure that out. I mean, you never want to be ego hacking someone in
Right.
a direction that they don't want to go. That's, you know, that's manipulation. We don't
So
want that. We
someone
only want
comes to you.
consent, consensual ego hacking. Hmm.
So someone comes to you, Casey, and says, I have no idea who I really am.
Hmm.
Help me find me.
Hmm.
What would you do? How would you help that person find himself or herself?
Sure. Sure. So I'd probably start asking questions of like, well, tell me more about that. What are you thinking about that question? Clearly, that you're asking that question says that you really care about this and that this is really top of mind for you. So it sounds like it's something you must be gathering a lot of evidence and information about. I'm really curious to know what you've learned. So hopefully they would share some information with me, what they've learned. And now, if they're saying things like if they're in a fixed kind of limiting mindset, that I can't figure this out, I don't know anything, I'd probably just remind them that just them caring about that and asking that question shows that they do care, that there is evidence that they're already headed on the right path. And the goal here is to help people see themselves in the way that they want to be, in the direction that they're trying to go. Now, if I tell somebody, hey, maybe someday you'll be that, maybe, you're not that yet, but maybe someday, what happens then is the mind looks for confirmation bias of whatever it thinks it is, whatever your identity is. So if your identity is, fixed in some way, what's going to happen in what does a brain do? A brain is a neural network. A neural network is an incredible pattern matching machine. It's like almost there's nothing better than a neural network for pattern matching, as far as I know. So when you're going about your day, you've got inputs coming at you in all directions, and you can't see it all, you can't process it all, you just have to process the meaningful parts. Now, which parts of all the different meaning and information that you're viewing at any moment, which ones of those comes into your view and your awareness? Well, anything that you know about, maybe, or anything that matters for your survival, but most importantly, anything in your identity will come into your awareness. It'll be given priority, let's say. So if you have a fixed mindset and you say, I'm not going to be able to do anything, this doesn't work, what are you going to find? You're going to find more of that. And, you hear about this, the law of attraction. There's so many different ways to say it. But it's basically a neural network finds what you identify with and gives it priority. So you got to be very careful with how you're programmed. You got to be very careful with what's in your identity, because you'll just find more of it. Now, if you have some attributes in your identity that you don't want, you want to replace it with a new attribute. Maybe you find you're like, I'm lazy, I can't get anything done, but you want to replace it with a new attribute of I'm successful, I'm going to get anything done I want. Well, it's almost like a snowball, right? You've got this old identity snowball that's very large and it's rolling downhill and it's collecting more evidence all the time. Yep, see, look at that reaffirms it. Yep, exactly. Yep. And it'll just find evidence everywhere you go. But if you start a new identity, like your friend says, hey, actually, I see you getting things done, or you start to tell yourself that, hey, look, I did actually get some things done today. Now you have a new identity snowball, a little kernel that's been compacted, and you're rolling it downhill. Well, it has to get to be bigger than the other old snowball and eclipse it to become the standard, to become the default thing your brain goes to when it's trying to make sense of reality. So you have a little bit of time there where you have to work at it, and then it becomes automatic. Now, those snowballs, depending on how optimistic or kind of negative or positive you might be feeling at any one moment, depending on how much you've slept, how much, what your outlook is on life, what you've heard from people, what have you eaten, all kinds of things that can affect whether you will pick a more conservative or older, or maybe even more negative snowball when you're responding, or identity when you're responding to life, or if you'll pick a newer, maybe more positive one. When you're very positive and you're having a great day, well, you start to see things that are a bit more optimistic, and you might start choosing some of those identities that go along with that. And then if you're having a bad day, your body wants to protect itself from dangers, so of course it's going to pick more conservative or more negative, often, identities. that make sense?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure you answered my question. Maybe I wasn't clear.
Please ask it again. I apologize.
It's not your fault. It's me if you didn't understand. Um, very often, people are told you're growing up and you're told this is what you're going to do. Don't do this. Don't do
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And we really lose sight of who we are.
Hmm.
From what I understand of what you have said, is that you want to go back to the simpler time when you're not lost in what everyone's telling you to be, but you become involved with what you inside your inner soul is saying you should be. Am I in the right direction?
Partially. Now, I would say partially, yes, you want to get in touch with who you want to be, but how do you enact that? That's the piece that I think that's important. So let's say you think you have a sense of, I want to be somebody who's more empathetic. I want to be somebody who's more focused on art, or somebody who's more getting things done, just hard driving, whatever it is. The key in ego hacking is you need to do it with your friends, because if people around you and society is telling you that, hey, you should be a doctor, you really want to be something else, you need to surround yourself with people that are telling you that you are the person you want to be. Because if you
Right.
don't, your body wants to become what other people tell you you are. So find those people, or create that connection with people you already have. You can say, hey, I've been looking at this. I just read this book about ego hacking. And I had this insight, like maybe I'm just going to become who other people want me to be. So would you help me just try and experiment here? Could you start looking for any evidence you see of me being that person I want to be, that artist, that empathetic person? Could you tell me that you noticed it? Tell me you noticed it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to thank you for that. Thank you so much for noticing that. And then you're going to feel like, oh, wow, I just got thanks for noticing that. Now I want to notice that more. So it becomes this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where
Okay.
people get, does that make sense?
It makes plenty of sense. But what
Mm.
about the person who has no idea who they are and they're saying, oh my gosh, I have so many interests. I don't know where I want to go or
Mhm.
how I want to go. I spoke
Yeah.
to someone like that
Mhm.
in the circle that Rayhan introduced
Yeah,
me to.
sure. Yeah,
And
this applies for that situation very easily.
how do we
So,
help that person
well,
get
first
focused?
of all, that person has a limiting belief. They think that they can't figure it
Right.
out, and they're reaffirming that. And their mind, their pattern matching machine, is going around saying, let me find evidence of I can't figure it out. Yep, see, I can't figure it out. I just told somebody else I can't figure it out. I'm finding evidence. I'm even further creating this identity of I can't figure it out. So for you, their friend who hears that they want to figure it out, you could ask them, get confirmation. Sounds like you want to figure this out, right? And then you have to show them that they are already figuring it out, that that is a part of their identity also. So you say, actually, you know what? I think that you're figuring this out. Clearly, you care a lot about it. You're asking questions. You're talking with all of us. Look at that the other day. You just had that conversation in the park and the picnic you told me about. And you started, maybe you should try to make a list of all these things. Maybe you should talk to your friends, the classic kind of problem solving, brainstorming. Maybe you just want to have them get further into it so they have more opportunities to have some success that you can call out and say, look, you're having success. That is who you are. Look at that. And then the more that becomes part of their identity, the more that they will automatically start to find it on their own. That's what you want to do. You want to jumpstart that identity for them so that they can automatically find it on their own.
That's what I was trying to say to that person and that person.
Mm-hmm.
But I have so many interests. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
sit down.
Yeah, maybe you say,
Go
well,
down
it
for a
sounds.
tiny bit and find out what
Mhm.
you really are interested in.
Yeah, you could just be, as a friend, tell me which ones, kind of which ones you could be, really excited about. If you were doing, you could be the best in the world at, and you could maybe have even an economic engine. That's the good to great model. If you've read the book Good to Great, but that's kind of sometimes a nice way to figure out not only what you would like, but also what would have an economic engine, if that's what matters. If it matters, you need to make a living, but also what maybe something that you could excel and be known to be the best in the world at, or best in your geography.
So how could I, because I'm not going to be able to get into that deeply because I'm not in Pakistan or wherever this person lives. How can I help that person at least jumpstart them so that person can move forward to where he or she needs to be?
Well, if you believe that they will figure it out, you can say things like that. Like say, I believe you're going to figure this out. It's just a matter of time. You clearly have a lot of passion about it. I trust that you'll do it. I know you're figuring this out. You're clearly already on the right track.
But
whatever you feel is true, that you can authentically say, that shows them that they're already going in that direction of figuring it out.
The point is, they are not in that direction yet. So
you have to. It's up to you to find evidence that they are. Otherwise, if you can't find any evidence, it's going to be tough to give them that identity that they are headed in that direction, or a little bit headed. Anything. It could be the smallest thing. I've seen it, and you can even tell people. You can tell people about ego hacking. Say, hey, there's this thing. This is how it works. If you associate yourself and identify with somebody who can't figure this out, well, you'll never figure it out. But if you take steps to identify yourself and connect yourself to being the person who will figure this out, who is figuring this out, well, then you'll get there. So you can even go that's a bit of a longer route. That's describing ego hacking. Maybe take a look at one of my talks. Maybe take a look at this talk. Maybe share this link with them. I don't know. It's hard to say. Each situation is unique, and it requires some creativity in helping people re-identify themselves. And it also if you don't go too deep, and you're pretty sure you're in safe ground, this is what the person wants, okay, you can venture into some ego hacking. But if you're going too far, you don't want to go too far without getting permission, explicit permission. So that would be like, hey, check out this talk, and if you agree, let's try to do some ego hacking experiments.
Okay. And you've been working on this for 5 years. How has this helped you?
Boy, there's a lot of pieces and a lot of little hacks and insights into it that I could go on for hours about these things. But it's really helped me in my communication with other people, really helped me understand them, and really helped me be a better leader. I'm working in business all the time and trying to make startups happen, and work with other companies and advise companies, and then just navigate my life. And challenges come up. There's challenging situations can happen all the time. And it really gives me a clear and simple and straightforward way to react to any situation. You say, well, what's going on? What do people really want? What would be a good outcome? And let's see if we can get there. Let's see about, and then also my own identity. How do I hack myself in this situation so I'm not getting triggered? So I'm not, I'm becoming the person that I'd like to be in this situation.
Okay. What do you do when you come to someone, or someone comes to you? And I know you need to go very soon. But what do you do when someone comes to you who has no idea? I want to be a doctor. I want to write books. I want to draw. I want to. How do you jumpstart that person?
I think
and you only have half an hour to jumpstart them.
Sure. Yeah. So you just got a little bit of time. I mean, you may or may not be able to jumpstart them in that time. It depends on how much they want to kind of play ball with you. Do they want to get into it, and do they have a growth mindset? If they have a growth mindset, this is Carol Dweck's work, where they think that they can figure it out and they just need some help, great. Get in there and help them, and start to show that you see them that way, and tell them, Really? Yeah, I see you that way too. Like, they're like, they'd be like, yeah, I don't know. Do you see me that way? Yes, absolutely, I do. And here's the evidence. You always want to follow up with evidence, whatever evidence you have. Um, but I think the biggest thing is just really taking a genuine interest. That's Dale Carnegie there. You want to take a genuine interest in this person and hear and encourage them to start talking, and then look for ways in which you can ask questions and guide, so that you can help get them closer to seeing themselves as able to do it, achieve it, or at least they're on the right track for figuring it out. And one other thing about ego hacking is you want to focus more on the positive in the direction that they would like to go, not so much on the negative. So, for instance, if they say, I can't do it, I'm no good, you might not want to say, tell me about why do you think you're no good? That just gets them to reinforce and invent more reasons why they're not good. That just increases that identity of can't do it. You want to really focus your energy on the I can do it in the direction that they'd like to be.
And I do that in my show. I know you haven't seen it, but I often say, if you say you can't do it, you're right, you can't. But take the not out and say, I can do it. Because when you say, I can do it, then you can do anything you want.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great advice.
So the knots drive me a little nuts because I'm like, yeah, you're right. You don't think you can do it? You can't. But you need to change that.
Absolutely.
I know you need to go. Any last words of wisdom for the people here?
Yeah, well, one other thing that really has changed my life, and it goes along with ego hacking, but that is this idea that we have multiple brains maybe inside of ourselves, or multiple selves. You could almost say we've got like this kind of reptilian or low level flight or fight brain. We have this like limbic or emotional brain, and thinking fast and slow, that's system 2, I believe. System 1. And then system 2 and thinking fast and slow, or you call it the neocortex, the thinking brain. Now, I think a mistake I used to make for so many years of my life, and it's only been the last few years I finally figured this out, is that a lot of times I would be talking with my logic brain to someone else, and be explaining something is difficult, maybe when I'm going through a difficult time with a partner or something like that. And I'm trying to be I'm thinking to myself, I'm logically explaining this, but they're just not satisfied. Why can't they hear me? And then finally, it would just get so difficult that I would blow up and go, rah, 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 just say a bunch of things emotionally, right? And then suddenly they said to me, wow, I totally get you now. I get it all. I'm satisfied. Like, what happened? I didn't really say anything that made sense. I just kind of got emotional. And so it's almost like you could have your neocortex, your highest level logic brain, talk to their neocortex all day long, yet their neocortex doesn't really translate it to their emotional brain. It just doesn't work. So if I'm talking logic all the time and their emotional brain is just listening but not hearing any emotion, it's kind of starved for information. So I see this can be a big problem for couples, if people in relationships, even at work. Well, so I've learned to try to speak with more tonality and emotion, not just logic. And that has really, really transformed my life. So, and that's just another small tip.
It's a good tip, because I really do believe that we get so stuck in our little selves that we forget that we're much bigger than that self, and we can do so much more.
Absolutely.
Are you running out of time?
I am. Yeah, I have 2 other people trying to get in touch with me right now. I'm already a little over. But I'm so sorry I have to leave. Maybe we can do this another time again and go a little deeper. But I hope that this was a good overview and inspiring for your listeners, and gives a little taste of the book to come.
Right, and that's what we wanted to do today. Maybe we can do this again in a month or 2 and go deeper into it.
Sounds great.
And with that, I want to
thank you, Carla. Thank you so much for this.
I want to thank you so much for speaking with me. The people who listen, thank you for coming. Again, remember this show is sponsored by the Institute of Peace, which is an online organization creating peace one conversation at a time. And with that, we will go out with a little laughter and let Casey get to where he needs to be.
Thank you, Carla.